Great, we're live. So here I am with Michael Lyden, who heads up the 100 Homes campaign here in Nottingham. Mate, thanks for being with us today.
No problem.
Really appreciate it. I've just got a few really simple questions. And my first question is, what is Fostering Sunday?
Fostering Sundays, it's actually a local thing where a lot of the churches in Nottingham got together and said, we've been called to focus on fostering for a season. And a great way to do that would be if we had a Sunday a year where we put an extra special emphasis on the need for foster carers and ultimately God's heart for vulnerable children and what he's calling his church to do in response.
Amazing. And one of the ways that we've sort of been answering that call as churches sort of around the city has been the 100 Homes campaign, which I know that you've been sort of taking the lead on. And so that many of people that are part of our church would have heard of that, maybe it's City Prayer in particular, but there'll be a few who haven't, who are maybe just watching for the first time today. So can you just give us a little bit of the story of how 100 Homes came about and what it is, basically?
For sure. Well, it came out of a leaders gathering back in 2017, where 120 church leaders from around Nottingham got together to pray and to discern together what God was calling the church in Nottingham to. And there's quite a profound moment in that gathering where someone stood up from the council as we were talking about fostering, or as another church leader from a different city was chatting about fostering and said, listen, if you've got any questions about whether Nottingham City Council would want to work with a church in this area, put them to one side because we would love to work with the church. And just a real sense that God was calling us to, as a church in Nottingham, to engage with fostering. And so from there, we've been gathering together lots of people from different corners of the church who were already working on this agenda, but weren't necessarily working together. And we said, well, what can we do as a united church? And it's just been amazing to see this campaign come about where we thought, well, we reckon it's on God's heart to recruit 100 new foster homes from the church in Nottingham because the need is massive. And this is a real crisis in our country. It's a crisis in our city. It's a crisis in our council. And who better to meet a need than God? And God worked through his church. So, yeah. 100 Homes campaign.
Wow, I've heard that story before. I think I was saying just before I hit record that I never get tired of hearing that. I mean, what an amazing way the church to practically respond to the needs of our city. And so you was also saying to me the other day that there, if anything, since COVID, the need's gone up, right? That it's kind of, I think I was really ignorant to that, but if anything, there's even more need now for people to look into fostering. Is that right?
That's right. It's we're all being told to stay at home to stay safe, but home isn't a safe place for everyone. We know that with the domestic abuse. I think that's got a lot of, and rightly got a lot of profile on the news. There's been an increase in that. But for a lot of the vulnerable kids, home isn't a safe place because it's a place that they experience neglect and abuse of various kinds. Throw into the mix the fact that they're not as visible to other professionals. There's no teacher spotting that that a child is thin or filthy or bruised and makes a phone call for the necessary arrangements to be made. And so there's a real expectation that as we ease out of lockdown and more teachers and other professionals get closer eyes on, there'll be a real increase in kids coming into care. We're already at record numbers, over 650, but the expectation is that there'll be even more. And so we need more foster carers, and particularly foster carers who are up for providing that short-term foster care in the hope that these families will be able to make adjustments and deal with some trauma and turn it around and have their kids back. So we really are anticipating an increase in need, and so we need more foster carers.
Wow. I mean, Michael, I know there'll be people in our congregation who have been through a journey of fostering, who have been foster carers before. Some who have been thinking about it maybe for a little while, and there might be some who are sitting here today and God's just stirring for the first time, even as you've been speaking. I mean, how can people take the first steps of, maybe stepping into what this might mean to look into foster caring? Yeah,
great question. Well, I think what we say is that this is about the church fostering. Yes, you need individuals to foster, but it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a church to foster. And so we say that maybe not everyone can foster, but everyone can do something. But we do believe that more people can foster than they think. And I think God is calling more people to fostering than they might realise. And so we actually phrase it like this, say, are you sure that God's calling you not to foster? how about we have a calling to opt out of this rather than a calling to opt in? And there are many ways you can take push a door on this. But what I would encourage you to do is actually to come along to an information evening that we've got coming up exactly a month today. So on the 10th of June, we've got an online information evening, and it's a chance to ask questions and to hear information. But ultimately, I think it's an opportunity to push a door. It says in Revelations that a door that God shuts, no one can open. And so actually it's not a risky thing to push a door on something because God is able to shut it. So how about you just come along to the information evening as a way of pushing the door and saying, God, I'm open, I'm surrendered. I'm going to come along and just see if you've got anything to say to me. That's all I would ask. That's a way you can respond.
That's amazing. And what we'll put the link, the Eventbrite link, I think we'll put that in our chat as this comes out on Sunday, and we'll put a slide up as well. Come back to that. But Michael, thank you so much for being with me and for being with us. And yeah, I mean, we were giving each other some haircut tips, weren't we? Some COVID haircut tips before we started recording, and I think I'm in dire need of one. Your trim's looking pretty fresh though.
The back is a bit sketchy, but no one gets to see that.
It's the camera angle. If you get that right, you know. Yeah. Michael, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being with us. And
you're welcome.
Yeah,
Happy Fostering Sunday.
Absolutely. You too.